Hello, welcome to Please Read Your Book. My name's Carl and I talk about books. In today's video, I'm going to dive into the dark, bleak world of Berserk. Alright, so welcome back. Like I said, in this video, I'm going to start diving into the world of Berserk, and I'm focusing on its first story arc, which is called the Black Swordsman. Alright, sorry about that. There's going to be some edits in this video. I'm still coughing a lot. I'm still quite sick, which kind of leads me to talk about, maybe first I'll talk about why I chose to read Berserk. I've been quite sick for over a month now. I've had pneumonia and I'm still coughing a lot. And so, my activity level really went down. I wasn't going out, still not going out, although I have been back at work. But I've just had a lot of free time and I wanted to read a series. I just kind of had the urge to read a series. I don't know, maybe it was just the cold weather, maybe it was being home so much. Plus it's kind of Christmas time, just kind of something you kind of do during that time. And I also wanted to try to read a genre that I don't normally read and that I haven't really read for a long time, which was fantasy. I was also looking at some science fiction series too, but for some reason this one stood out to me. Doing a little bit of research, and for some reason Berserk kind of kept popping up, and I just decided, okay, well, I'll just download one issue. It was less than 10 bucks. I figured, why not? Just give it a shot. And holy cow, so hooked on this, so addicted to it. This is absolutely amazing stuff. But it's so long. I think it's in its 42nd or 43rd volume. I could be wrong on that. I haven't done a lot of research because I don't want to spoil it. And I haven't watched lots of videos or read much about it because I don't want a lot of details that are going to ruin it for me. But what I can tell you is that a couple things here. First, it's a manga. It's Japanese manga, obviously. And this one has something different to me. I don't know if this is typical of longer manga, but a story arc can finish in the middle of a volume and a new arc can start within the same volume. I'm used to arcs being contained within 3 or 4 volumes, and then the new story arc starts and things like that. So that's a little new to me. The other thing that's different about this one is it's fairly linear. There are not flashbacks, at least from what I've read so far, there are not flashbacks within story arcs. Whereas a lot of manga, you get flashbacks to kind of backfill the story, tell the character's backstory and things like that, or do kind of an info dump on what's happening. This one doesn't do that. The arc is very, very linear. I have read the next story arc, the next 2 story arcs, but I'm not going to talk about those. I'm just going to stick with the first story arc on this, and I'm going to do different videos for different story arcs. This was created by Kentaro Miura, debuted in 1989, and he continued to work on it up until his death in 2021, although he didn't work on it nonstop. He's kind of infamous for taking time away from it. So there are in the publication, there's gaps in it. So I'm not sure how that affects the storytelling. I haven't kind of gotten that far into it. Like I said before, this is a fantasy, but it's very dark. It's very, very dark. And that's kind of how I came across it. I was kind of researching grimdark. I don't know why, but I was researching that. And this popped up. And I just thought it would be something I would try. It's very dark. It's set in kind of what seems to be like a medieval Europe. But there's a lot of supernatural horror to it. A lot of themes of identity and existentialist kinds of themes, revenge. It seems to be kind of a revenge quest. That's about all I know. I'm not very far into it, so I can't give an overview of the whole story. So this story, Berserk, it follows the main character whose name is Guts, because Why not? Why not name someone Guts? I'd be interested to know how he got that name. But he's a lone mercenary, kind of like the lone swordsman or the lone gunfighter wandering the wasteland, that kind of thing. He seems to have some kind of tragic past. He doesn't like to be touched. He gets extremely angry and upset when he's touched, and he tells people, don't touch me, stop touching me, things like that. So obviously it's some kind of trauma there. And he's battling these demons and beasts in this very dark world, which seems to be ruled, and he goes through these kingdoms that are controlled by these horrific cannibalistic demons, these humans that are possessed by demons, and basically they're just eating and killing people. And that's what I know so far. Before I get into like the plot or anything like that, I just want to talk about the things that I really, really like about it. The artwork is just absolutely amazing in this one. It's not your typical manga artwork that we think of. It's very unique. It's almost a bit rough in places, but it works with the type of story that is being told, like I said, which is very grim and very dark and very foreboding kind of story. Each panel really kind of immerses you in this really desolate and very unforgiving, brutal world. And the battle scenes, the action scenes are just really visceral and just create this just like very compelling, but also, I don't know what the right word for it is. Like, you want to know what happens next, but it's often just like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. You know, you're just like, holy crap, I can't believe that happened. And that also ties in with the pacing. The pacing of this thing is just absolutely relentless. Like from the first page, from the first panel, you are in it and everything is happening, and it's just this like, boom, it's just this like rocket of a story that you just can't get off of it. I read the whole volume 1 in one sitting, which is unusual for me. I tend to be a pretty distracted reader, but this one, I just didn't put it down. It's just like bang all the way through. I think I just stopped twice to get coffee, to make coffee. I didn't even go out for coffee. It's just like, wow, just amazing. Character development is great. I think it's interesting to a story that is fantasy, dark fantasy, supernatural, elements of horror, but also there's a lot of psychological elements to it. And you can see that this main character of Guts, he has paid a psychological toll, a very steep price in his, what seems to be his revenge quest, or his quest of vengeance. But again, we don't know why or what, assuming that's going to come very soon. So, so I think that's like all the like general stuff I wanted to say about this. Like I said, I'm just absolutely loving it. I'm now going to talk about the story and the plot and the characters. Probably going to give some spoilers for this first story arc. So if you haven't read it yet, or if you're in the middle of reading it, this would be a great time to watch another one of my amazing videos somewhere on YouTube. But yeah, I just want to talk about this story. So here we go. So like I said, it opens with Guts having sex with a woman who's a demon. She says she's a demon. He kind of says, well, I kind of knew that, and he kills her. And that, from there, that sets the whole story. It's worth noting, in case you haven't figured out yet, this is a very adult-oriented manga. There is sex, there is very graphic violence, there's lots of blood and guts and all kinds of weird nightmare stuff. But that's what makes it so great. So yeah, from there, our narrative is kind of set in motion. Guts enters this town and he goes into a tavern. He tells the tavern owner, I'm going to tear this place apart. And he does. He kills all these I guess these other mercenaries or these soldiers or something, leaves one behind and says, tell your boss the Black Swordsman is here. And the guy's like, the Black Swordsman, who's that? And he's like, take a look around and tell your boss, you know. So he tells the boss. The boss turns out to be the Snake Lord, which is this sort of humanoid snake thing. And this is where we get some key information in the story and the plot, where this thing, the Snake Lord, is one of what are referred to as the apostles. And the apostles are working for or controlled by or allied with, somehow are in line with something called the God Hand. And the God Hand is what Guts is really after. I mean, he's dispensing with the apostles, but as a means to get to the God Hand. So there's a huge fight. This is how he learns this. And at the end of the fight, he's got this thing like pinned down, disfigured, dismembered. It's still alive somehow, and he's interrogating it. Once he gets what he needs, he starts a very slow fire and slowly pushes the thing into the fire so that it can slowly watch itself die being burnt. I don't know how to describe that. It's going to die. Yeah, it's going to die in the fire, but it knows what's happening. It's going to watch itself burn to death, basically. Ugh, my God. So, but it's okay because it's a Snake Lord. So, so from there he goes into another town where I'm gonna gloss over some stuff here so that I'm not gonna give some big spoilers. There's a lot of people being killed because there's a man named the Count who thinks that these people are heretics, even though they're not. He basically just is taking pleasure in watching them being killed, and he may or may not be eating them too. Or some of them he eats and some he doesn't, something like that. Anyways, there's like this kind of like old doctor who helps Guts kind of escape at one point and gives a bit of information about the Count. Turns out the Count is possessed. So the Count is another one of these apostles, but he's quite powerful. Probably more powerful than the Snake Lord, if you will. And Guts says, well, all right, I'm going to, have to kill this guy and find out what's going on here. And in kind of his last conversation with this doctor guy, he comes across this item called the Behelit, which is this weird kind of giant, large, well, I shouldn't say giant, it's kind of a large egg. It's maybe a head-sized egg with faces around it. It's very strange. And he learns that the Behelit is kind of a beacon or possibly even a portal. Could be a beacon for the Godhead, or it could open a portal into another realm, which maybe is hell, where the God Hand is, and the God Hand can come into Earth, or come onto, or come to Earth, or something like that. And so Guts realizes, okay, I can use this to get the God Hand. So, but we still don't know who the God Hand is, or why he wants to fight or kill the God Hand. We still don't know all this other stuff. So then there's a confrontation with the Count. The Count is extremely powerful because the Count is possessed by a very powerful demon. And the Count has a daughter named Teresia. And basically the only way that Guts can overcome the Count is by taking Teresia hostage and threatening her. And when all of this goes down, the Count comes across the Behelit, triggers it, calls the God Hand. And then we learn that the God Hand, one of the members of the God Hand, possibly the leader of the God Hand, is a character named Griffith. Although in the God Hand, his character is called Femto. The God Hand looks a lot like the Cenobites from Hellraiser. And I need to research this, but again, I don't want to spoil it for myself. But I'm pretty sure Kentaro Miura saw the film Hellraiser. Obviously, probably read the book too, and was very much inspired by that. It's not a rip-off at all, but it's one of those like, oh, that's very much influence, and it's actually a pretty cool thing. So the God Hand is this kind of like trio of super demons, basically, and they tell the Count, you can either die here or sacrifice your daughter. And the Count says, well, take Guts, take this guy. And they say, wait, we can't take him because Guts has already been branded as he will at some point be a victim of the God Hand. And that brand that he has, Guts can use it. I think he's using it when he kind of rubs it, it bleeds, and then it attracts these demons. So yeah, so then there's this huge confrontation there. And in doing so, the God Hand kind of opens this like stream of souls, basically. And they try to take Guts. I don't want to give it all away because it's so good. They try to take Guts, but they can't. But they do take the Count. And Guts gets close to Griffith, and we really learn that what's really going on is, for some reason, Guts wants to get to Griffith. So that's the Black Swordsman. There's so much that happens here, and it's just so good. It's so addictive. I just cannot tell you how great this is. So if you're a fan of horror, especially if you like things like Hellraiser, definitely would recommend Berserk to you. If you are interested in horror and you maybe want to try a manga, you haven't tried manga before, I think this would be great because, like I said, it's a very linear read, and it's pretty easy to get into. There's not a wide cast of characters. There's a couple characters I glossed over, but I can tell you they're going to come back in later. So yeah, I just think this is fantastic. I can't say enough good stuff about it. I'm definitely addicted to it. This is going to be the first of many videos to come. So there you go. That is my video about Berserk, the Black Swordsman. Highly recommended. Get out there and read this thing. My name is Carl. This has been Please Read Your Book, and I hope to see you again soon.